Good evening, good afternoon, wherever you are. I'm Tanker, and in today's video we're taking a look at the history of the North African campaign. Now, before we dive into that meaty topic, we're going to be taking a look at a couple of channel updates. So, firstly, my upload schedule will most likely be either Saturday or Sunday, not during the week. That's probably the only channel update news before we dive into the meaty section begins. So to understand the history of the North African campaign, we have to go back in history. Well, more specifically, back in time to the early 1900s. At this stage, Britain was becoming a global power. She had an empire that spanned more than a quarter of the globe. And before the First World War, basically Britain depended on her lifeline via the Suez Canal, which basically linked the far eastern parts of Britain's empire to the western parts of Britain's empire. I'm trying to think. Italy had been formed in 1861, I think. And basically, in 1912, Italy had occupied and fought a war with the Ottoman Empire over Libya. Italy had won said war, and then gained Libya as a result of that war. France controlled Morocco and Algiers. The dates of both those occupations I'm not sure about. Egypt was occupied, made a British protectorate since I think 1882, I think. But basically, so in the 1930s with the Nazis gaining power in Germany, and in 1922 Mussolini seizing power in Italy. The situation in North Africa was complicated because, as all political situations are, they are complicated. Britain had the resources to do, basically, it had to manage its fleets and armies that had to be well supplied. So there was the challenge of logistics of having a vast empire. Although, by the time World War II broke out, they did have the advantage of the fact that it was mostly, essentially, they had supply columns and convoys. So that's the backstory done. Back to North Africa. So in 1940, the 10th of June 1940, Italy declared war on Britain and France. And as a result, the North African theatre of operations became, shall we say, of vital interest to the British, because in 1940 they'd been kicked off the continent after the German invasion of France, and they had managed to evacuate troops from the beaches of Dunkirk, but they had to leave the heavy equipment behind. So they had to manage a variety of tasks that to be managed. So in September of 1940, the Italians invaded Egypt. The British managed to force a series of rearguard actions, and the Italians were chased out of Egypt all the way back into Libya, and having been being beaten by the British, the Italians, they had to get Germany to a system. So we say, so in 1941, Hitler sent military aid to Italy in the form of Erwin Rommel and the Afrika Korps. Those reinforcements arrived, and immediately Rommel counterattacked and basically pushed the British back into Egypt again. So it's basically a seesaw. So you've got Germany and Italy on one side and Britain on the other, and when one side wins, the seesaw tips in favour of the other side and vice versa. So the desert battles of North Africa, it was hot, it was, there's no way to describe it because I obviously haven't fought, but I do play those games where it is like, you've got heat, it's hot, it's really hot. So basically, the scene that I'm doing, it's focused on just before the Battle of El Alamein. So it's just before that when the Germans and the Italians are advancing. So it's going on pretty well. Yeah, so that's the history of North Africa. It's 1942, so the British have yet to gain the upper hand, and the Americans have entered the war, although they're not in significant numbers, although the tanks and stuff provided under the Lend-Lease, that is in North Africa already. So these videos are the history of each operation, the MOCs I'm doing. It will be me speaking to the camera, i.e. speaking to you, my audience. So please like the video, share it, and subscribe, and comment down below with your suggestions on what you want me to do next in the MOCs. So thank you very much. I'll see you next time. Goodbye.